up, everyone? Jason Gilbo here with Rob Mazika, taking a look at tonight's NBA slate. 8 games, a lot lower totals than what we're used to. I got my buddy Rob here, who's back, not feeling too well because he had a long weekend at the World Baseball Classic.
Yeah, Miami, it got the best of me. It's a good time. World Baseball Classic. I'm stoked for baseball season now, a couple weeks away, but right now we're focusing on NBA.
Yeah, back in the groove here. And first game, Chicago and Charlotte. The only injury concern with this one is Nicholas Batum, who popped up as questionable with a migraine. That's one of those things. I mean, it really is probably going to linger up until game time to see what we get out of him. But Jeremy Lamb would benefit the most there.
Yeah, Batum's questionable. If he's out, I definitely have a lot of interest in Lamb. If he's in, most of my interest on this team goes towards Kemba just because he's really been this entire offense lately.
Yeah, Kemba's been a stud. And I mean, this game alone, my only interest is on this Charlotte side. Batum plays. I do like him. I hope it lowers his ownership a little bit more because one, shooting guard really hasn't been a loaded spot. So I don't mind going up to the mid range to use those guys for safety.
Same here, especially on FanDuel where you have to fit two of them into.
Yeah, but I mean, Kemba Walker's been the guy who's just been a stud. Front court might get a little bit jammed with Frank Kaminsky possibly coming back. I think that lowers the ceiling a little bit for guys like Williams and Zeller.
Yeah, with Kaminsky coming back, I mean, I originally liked Williams, but with Kaminsky back, it really lowers my interest in Williams at his current prices.
Yeah. Anyone on the Bulls you're looking at?
Maybe Jimmy Butler for a tournament or something, just because he's had 2 big games against Charlotte this year so far, and he could do it again, but he just hasn't been playing well lately at all.
No, Bulls have just been looked completely off, and Butler, I don't know if it's just an injury or what, but I mean, not really the same in the second half of the season so far.
Yeah, I agree.
Dallas Toronto next one here, 195 total, one of the lower ones on the night. As far as the Dallas side of things go, I'm not really on anyone here. I mean, I only have one particularly interesting one guy, and that's DeRozan on DraftKings at 8,400. Just with that usage, he's going to go off. It's just a matter of if his shot's falling or not.
Without Lowry, DeRozan's been taking over his team. I have some interest in another guy in Toronto on DraftKings specifically, not FanDuel. But Jonas Valanciunas, he's only 4,800 over there, and Dallas, they're still a worst rebounding team in the NBA, even with Nerlens Noel, and I'm not sure if he's playing tonight or not. But he's questionable right now. If he's out, Valanciunas gets a real big bump in his matchup.
Yeah, I mean, we saw 30 and 34-minute game against Atlanta, New Orleans, where he locked in a double-double in both games, and then all of a sudden we saw him go back to 21 minutes the game before that. It's just a matter of really if he can stay out there longer than 25 minutes.
For real, that makes him tournament only, though.
Yeah, definitely. No one else from that one?
No one else.
Yeah. Wizards Timberwolves are finally a good total here, 214. On the Wizards side of things, I mean, Bradley Beal's just been shooting lights out. I mean, even though it's a tough matchup on paper, I'm going to continue to kind of plug and play him.
I like Beal, especially with the way he's been shooting the ball. He's always been a shot-dependent player, and it's really been falling over 20 points in pretty much every game for the last 10 games. It's a good spot. Him and Wall are definitely a good stackable option. It's always fun to have the two of them go off in a game, too.
Yeah, and they play heavy minutes, too. I mean, they've had a brutal stretch there between the overtime game, the back-to-back games, finally making their way back home. I do, worry a little bit about the schedule taking a toll, but, I mean, both those guys are fairly young.
Yeah, they're both fairly young. They could handle the minutes, and they've proven that they could, too.
Yeah, and as you said, Wall also in play. Frontcourt guys, I mean, been really inconsistent for Washington of late. Tougher matchups anyway. I think there's better options.
I think there's better options, too. Moving over to the Timberwolves team, Bjelica is a guy who's been getting a decent amount of minutes in the last few games. He's only 4K on DraftKings, but he's had over 20 fantasy points in 4 of his last 5 games, and that's easily hitting his value.
It's a guy who, I mean, when on the court, would seem to be a pretty good fantasy points per minute player.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if he gets the minutes. And last 2 games over 30 minutes, so it's starting to look that way.
Yeah, it is. As far as, other guys in this one, tough matchup. Ricky Rubio's proven to do it in tough matchups. He's just been one absolute stud since Levine's gone down.
Yeah, Rubio is one of my favorite point guard options tonight. He has triple-double upside at your point guard position at only 6,800 on DraftKings. It's a great tournament play, and I wouldn't even argue against it in cash.
No, I don't think so either. I mean, I don't think we'll see him score 22 real points last game, but I mean, this is a guy who has seen a tick up in points production. Double-digit assists have been there more times than not.
Yeah, the assists are always there. It's just if you can match it with the points.
Yep. As far as another guy that I have slight interest in, Gorjai Dang, 5K on DraftKings, not a bad price for him. A couple of down games last time out, but in a good spot. Washington really does struggle with power forwards.
Yeah, and he crushed them the last time they played. Grant, he played 40 minutes in that one, but his minutes have been down last two games. But hopefully we can get him back to over his 30 minutes per game, and he'll have a good game tonight.
Yeah, we've kind of seen that trend where he'll play down a couple of games and then play back up. So hopefully that's kind of the thing tonight.
Hopefully.
Atlanta and San Antonio, next one here. I have some interest in Atlanta on the DraftKings side of things. I mean, both their front court guys, Howard and Millsap, are in really good spots. I mean, Howard 6,200. Like, I wasn't even sure if I was quite reading that right at first.
Yeah, that price seems way too cheap for Howard. I'm not sure what they're doing with this pricing, but these last three games, actually more than that, last maybe 10 games, Howard's been crushing his value, and there's no reason for his price to be this low.
No, I mean, it's a guy who's just been kind of a constant double-double. He's going to get a dwindled down San Antonio front court. I don't see a reason why he doesn't come out with another one tonight.
I agree. And then Millsap on the same team, he's always a safe cash game play if you want to pair them together too.
Yeah. And as far as the San Antonio side, I mean, Kawhi Leonard questionable tonight. LaMarcus Aldridge out for the foreseeable future. That puts David Lee. Also, I mean, both of the guards are out, Murray and Parker as well. So, I mean, Patty Mills is going to be a chalky value option. The Spurs are in play. I mean, the Spurs are also 5-point favorites here, which is a little odd.
Yeah, Patty Mills is going to be the cash game play tonight at point guard. Just a plug and play, especially on DraftKings, only 4,400. You can fit him in, and it really helps you fit in one of the studs.
I mean, do you feel that the fact that San Antonio's 6-point favorites may indicate that Leonard might play tonight?
Yeah, that does indicate it a little bit to me. They've actually been proven to win even without him, though, so you just never know with the Spurs.
I mean, if he does play, I mean, I'm completely fine with using him because his usage is just going to be through the roof.
Oh, yeah, definitely. If he plays, he's going to carry this entire offense because everyone else is hurt.
Yeah. So, I mean, San Antonio's looking like a pretty good chalky value team tonight.
Yeah, most likely. You got David Lee, Patty Mills, basically anyone who's going to be starting.
Yeah, and, it's weird because I figured Paul Gasol would get a little bit more run with all these injuries, but he really hasn't. I think one of these nights he will go off, but right now he's just a tournament option.
I think they're just saving him for the playoffs.
Yeah, it could be something too. I mean, obviously an older guy, minutes aren't always going to be there.
Yeah, Popovich always does stuff like this.
Bucks and Grizzlies, next one here. I don't have a lot of interest in this one. Just a 199 total. Probably more on the Memphis side, if anything.
I have a guy in each team, but that's about it. I'll start with Memphis. Marc Gasol, he's 7,300 on DraftKings, and Milwaukee, they just don't have a guy who could really contain him.
No, they don't. I mean, You look at that Gasol, one really nice price tag, but yeah, I mean they don't. They're also a bottom 10 rebounding team as well.
Yeah, so it's definitely a spot where he could just take over this one. And then on the Milwaukee side, I have a value play. I like Dellavedova. With Brogdon out, he's seeing over 25 minutes a game. A little more usage going his way, but he's only 3,800 on DraftKings, and he could get you over 20 fantasy points, and I'm fine with using that.
I think he just kind of depends if other guys are out. I mean, if the Nelson's out, I probably prefer Jamal Murray, just in a better matchup, and some other cheaper guards. I mean, like Mills, he's just probably more of a pivot.
Yeah, definitely a tournament pivot only. I wouldn't do it in cash.
But yeah, that's pretty much it for that one. I mean, we're starting to get into the better games here.
Yeah, much better games. We're almost in a fun one.
So, Clippers Jazz, next one here, 201. On the Clippers side, they continue to see kind of our price down on DraftKings. I mean, Griffin 8,300, not bad. DeAndre Jordan 6,500, not bad. I think they're more contingent on if Gobert sits for me.
If Gobert sits, I might just plug in Blake Griffin. I mean, he hasn't had an upside game in a while, but who's going to stop him if Gobert's out? Like Jeff Whitley, Trey Lyles. There's really no one with the size for him and Jordan not to go off.
Yeah, there's really not, and I think they're going to fly under the radar because it's still perceived as a tough, slow down matchup, which, it is slowed down, but, with the Clippers still having 100 team total and the starters running out 35-plus minutes, it's going to be those guys.
Yeah, I mean, that's really my only interest in this game, though. Utah really takes away a lot of the other teams' production with their slow pace, and the Clippers are just an elite defensive team all around.
And, on the Jazz side of things, I mean, I like Gordon Hayward tonight. There's no Derek Favors. For one thing, you're going to see a tick up in usage for Hayward. Even though the guards are back, I mean, I still don't have any particular interest in them going up against this backcourt defense. Basically, Hayward's my guy, and if Gobert does play, I like Gobert as well.
Yeah, Hayward's always a safe option for cash. A little bit tournament upside as well. And if Gobert plays, I have interest in him as well.
Orlando Kings, next one here, 205. I like this Orlando side. I think your safer options are probably Vucevic and probably Fournier as well. And then probably the rest of the three, though, all tournament worthy.
Yeah, Vucevic and Fournier are probably the safer options on the board. Fournier maybe a little bit safer just because the way Biyombo's been taking away minutes from Vuce. The rest of the team, and then there's Terrence Ross on FanDuel. His price is too cheap over there. His cash game option, I'd potentially at that price, but on DraftKings, tournament only at 5K.
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy probably going to garner lower ownership just because, one, he hasn't played all that well of late, but some tougher matchups, but still a guy who's seen 30-plus minutes. I like him. Alfred Payton, who, one, has, tossed up a couple triple-doubles of late in a decent spot as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's never fun to roster Alfred Payton, but he's got 70-point upside, which he showed the other night, but he also has a floor of about, 6 fantasy points. So you just don't know where you can get out of him. It's a good spot, and he's definitely in play for tournaments.
Yeah, it isn't, and now at a similar price tag to D'Angelo Russell, I mean, it's going to be a good swerve off of him.
Definitely.
So, on the Kings side, I mean, I basically have interest in two guys. Willie Cauley-Stein, more of a GPP play for me just because, one, is not always the most productive when he's out there, but it is a good spot. I could definitely see him locking down a double-double tonight.
I could too. He's been playing a lot of minutes, and this Orlando front court really isn't that strong.
I mean, they really do struggle, especially with Ibaka gone. The other guy I do have interest in is Buddy Hield. Has played 30 and 37 minutes in the last 2 games, 29 and 26 DK points on DraftKings there. Just 4K, with the lack of shooting guard options, I don't mind paying down a spot, especially if you're paying up elsewhere.
I don't mind it either. It all depends on if his shot's falling, though. He's just a guy. He's going to shoot. It's just if it goes in, he's going to produce. If he doesn't, he really doesn't do much of anything else.
No, he doesn't. He's not a peripheral player, so that's the one downside to him. The one good thing, I mean, he did get 6 and 5 rebounds over the last 2 games, so there was that added bonus, but not a big, defensive guy or not a big assist guy either.
Exactly.
So, next one here, Lakers and Nuggets. This one should be your core tonight. I mean, 230, over under here in Denver. With that being said, basically, we're flying away with a lot of names here.
Yeah, I like pretty much everyone. Jokic, my favorite guy to pay up for if he plays. He's 10-4 on DraftKings. D'Angelo Russell for Lakers, we just touched on. Just as good as a matchup as Peyton, if not better, but his price is higher.
Yeah, and Russell's been playing well. I mean, I think Russell's probably a safer option. I think Peyton's a pretty good tournament pivot. But Russell Clarkson, I mean, Clarkson's not going to have the single-digit ownership that he did, last night, because of that big outburst. So expect a tick up. But, Clarkson's been playing 30 minutes off the bench and is a solid option in all formats.
I like Clarkson a lot, especially after that game last night. And even excluding he's been playing well if you take out the 50-point performance last night, 4 out of his 5 games, he hit his 5x his value. So he could definitely do it again in an easy matchup with Denver.
Yeah, he could. And a guy who does have a slight difference in pricing, Brandon Ingram, 4K on FanDuel. I don't mind him. Obviously, he needs all those minutes to get just to basically hit his value. But, a decent option, especially if you're trying to relieve salary.
Yeah, personally, I can't use him just because of his inconsistency, but I wouldn't argue against you if you're using him.
As far as the front court guys, I mean, Julius Randle playing well. Zubac, drew the start, played well, but didn't play full starters minutes. I still think he's a GPP option, especially at that lower price tag. And we have seen the upside. I mean, I think where he first really broke out was that first game against Denver a while back.
It was. I think his ownership is actually going to be a lot higher than it should be tonight. Granted, he's still a great play, a great option. I just have a gut feeling that his ownership is going to be pretty high.
Yeah, especially he might just because, one, there isn't a ton of centers to really pay up for. With Vucevic back, kind of Biyombo goes down. As far as other guys, it's not like they're in perfect spots.
Yeah, exactly. And then some other value we got on this team, we got will win this game. Jamal Murray, because Jameer Nelson's going to be out. And that also opens up Gary Harris as well. They'll both get an increase in usage, and Harris's minutes will be over 30 regardless. But it's in this matchup, like, you could really almost stack this game and hope it goes to overtime and win everything.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be my core tonight. I think the only guys that I'm not on is basically Gallinari and Wilson Chandler at their price tags.
And even then, they're still not bad plays.
No, they're certainly viable. I mean, a 122 team total for Denver, this whole starting five's in play.
Yeah, basically just try to get exposure to this game. You're going to need some at least.
Yeah, definitely. As far as your top scorer for tonight, who you got?
I got Jokic as long as he plays the minutes and gets his normal amount of minutes. It's just the spot where they're going to dominate. Like, it's going to be the highest scoring game of the night, and he's the highest usage player on the team. So it just kind of goes together.
Yeah, I like Jokic as well. I think John Wall is going to put up a big game as too.
Yeah, he's put up a couple of big games against Minnesota in his career. He could definitely do it again.
That's going to wrap things up here. I want you to head on over to dailyfantasycafe.com, check out our great tools and content.
Good luck, everyone.